Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Quick disclaimer, this is a reread for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame as we prepare for the book Onyx Storm. Spoilers ahead.
For years, you just ran with it.
Well,
Like, oh no, our clothes are shrinking. Oh.
You did have a lot of cotton shirts, though, so it was very possible.
They were mostly polyester. I had a very cotton bod for a while, and it was not shrinking.
Xaden didn't get to test out the saddle, and I love Taryn's line of, "You can ride me when the flesh rots off my bones."
Yeah, because it's not even when I'm dead. I've been dead for a long time before you're getting on me. How long do you think it takes dinosaurs? God damn it.
Got you.
Damn it, it got me too. How long do you think it takes dragons to start to decompose?
I don't know.
Because, like, you know why plastics and stuff don't decompose naturally well, right?
No.
What decomposition is think of it as tiny little critters eating things, right? But things are only eating generally organic matter.
Oh, and that's why it was such a big deal that there's this plastic-eating fungi.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And your question is, how long would it take for them to decompose?
Dragon scales are super hard.
Oh, I was thinking like it's just bigger than the other items.
Right, but I was thinking of like the dragon scales and stuff. With fungi and things would have to work inside out, probably.
I put their scales in like an armadillo on roids.
Yeah. Google decomposing armadillo.
Oh, no, I'm not
just
Googling
curious.
this. No.
Well, think of this turtle shells. What remains after the turtle's dead?
It would take a very, 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 very long time. Xaden will be long dead by the time Taryn is long dead and decomposed.
Well, yeah, because Taryn's got another 100 years in the tank if nothing else happens, right?
Absolutely.
Because he's middle-aged and he's 100 years old. So, give or take 100 more years, plus decomposition.
Anyways, Violet is the first one to test this out. It should be safe. We don't know. Taryn brings up the fire and how they tried to build it in a way that it can resist fire, which is important. And Violet has this moment of, well, that's not really important because only other dragons would be breathing fire. So that's not necessary.
Which is both foreshadowing and pointing out how dumb Violet is. The person who's actively trying to murder you has a dragon. Fire is still a risk for you. Like, come on.
Do the wyvern breathe fire?
Yes, different colored fire.
That's right. Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yep.
Okay, that explains all of that more clearly.
Do you suppose it's because they're breathing something else that's combustible other than just oxygen?
I don't know.
Okay.
I thought it had
We're not
to
going to
do...
get into more science, but the color of fire is determined by what's being burned, right?
Yes.
That's it. I'm not going any further into why potassium must
I thought
be
the color would have to do with whatever was inside of them. What was inside of them? Like a rune of some kind?
Yeah, and love. That was the secret
love.
ingredient. Yeah, and chemical X. They're the Powerpuff Girls of dragons.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Sugar, spice, everything nice. A rune and chemical X.
Okay. I assume that might be why they breathe the color that they do.
Oh, okay.
They get in their saddle, they begin their games, all of this. I don't fully understand all the games and whatnot.
They're going for the egg.
Yep.
Because the egg is worth more than everybody else.
Jack is a twat like always. He sees Liam and he just leaps from dragon to dragon. Kind of badass, really.
Jack's good at his job.
Jack is impressive.
And manages to stab Liam through the chest.
Yes.
And then kick his ass off the dragon and then return to safety. We see this move happen later when they're fighting other people who aren't Venom. But
it was really badass of Jack,
so
to be honest, just leaping. And it seemed to be like a move no one had seen before. Like, this is just Jack being a psycho, jumping from dragon to dragon. And obviously now Liam is falling to his death.
Mm-hmm.
Violet reaches for Indarna's power, and she was a little more demanding than I remember this scene being, and that threw me off guard. But it's all playing into how her power is manifesting into protecting and saving, protect and save.
Protect and serve.
Oh
Is that
my
what you're getting at?
God, no!
Violence the police.
No.
That's the sound of Violet.
I didn't pick up on I was doing that.
Yeah, no, protect and serve. She does. Because she's serving, bitch. So she reaches for Indarna's power when they're not quite going to make it. In a wild way, everybody lets this go except Rhi, right?
Let's go of what she saw. Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody else is there also. And Liam doesn't ask any questions.
He's, I think, just was nearing death. So
yeah, but he's not unconscious.
Yeah.
He's been stabbed. He's bleeding out. It takes a while.
And he's just falling, and you just see them like in the distance, and all of a sudden they're like, boom, whoa.
And he has farsight. Like, of all people that could recognize the distance they are from him, it's Liam. He's like, I clocked him at 28. They were 28 meters away, and a moment later, they had me. He's like, holy shit, maybe my zoom wasn't
I'm
work.
going to say if he super zoomed in on them because they're the closest ones to him, super zoomed in, and all of a sudden it's just Terrence.
He sees Terran's nipple. He's like, oh my god, it was too close. Dragons must have nipples. It's not disgust.
I didn't think of Liam's power.
All I'm pointing out is also the person who witnessed this is a person who could have attempted to have helped.
Oh, yeah, she can retrieve.
Correct. Did she attempt to retrieve?
We don't know. She could have.
But she didn't say she did.
Because she maybe felt embarrassed that she couldn't.
Okay.
I don't know.
Did you attempt to help? No. Totally could have, though. I don't think that's it. What I love about this, too, so we have Xaden's shadows. Potentially could have grabbed him. We have...
Yeah, if he can black out an entire town, that means he has the reach with his shadows.
Well, and it's not that the shadows have to come from him, right? He has command over shadows. There are things casting shadows, I would assume. There are shadows near where, if nothing else, I could have stopped, slowed the landing, something. And we have, it all comes down to Violet stops time momentarily in order to save Liam. And I think that is a wonderful moment, right? I really do like that.
The sacrifice that Indarna gave for that.
This is the thing, and all Indarna's done so far is sacrifice. That's all Indarna's done.
No, this is
She shows up for training when she can, and she's trying hard. She's just trying to be with the big dragons. She's doing everything she can, and then her power, her sacrifice, does it go thanked or noticed by anyone other than Violet?
I think Violet going after Barlow is part of her being upset that she had to use that to protect.
What about the other dragons? Do you think Indarna's getting some shit from the other dragons? She'd be like, motherfucker, stop letting her use that power. Like, Liam's dragon is just like, Liam's like, I don't know what happened. They weren't there. And then all of a sudden they were there. And his dragon's just over there just whistling, just because he knows what happened. He's not telling him. All the dragons know what's happening, but the dragons are all sworn to secrecy. Dragons
don't seem to treat Indarna the way that I would expect them to with a foster dragon.
She's a queen.
Yeah.
Indarna's a queen dragon. She's clearly royalty of some sort. They seem to be aware of it to a certain extent.
I don't know if they are.
Well, I mean, they're like, well, normally the eggs hatch within a year or two. This one's been laying there since long before I was around. Indarna was in that egg for 600 years, right? Which means that's 5 generations of dragon have seen this egg not hatch.
Wow. So they know she's special.
They might think she was in that egg for a little too long. That one overcooked. We don't know. Or like, maybe she'll be a genius.
In this moment, going back to all of this with Liam and Jack and Violet, it is so incredible. I loved it the second time, just like I did the first time. It was awesome. It was incredible. It was great. And the pride that Terran gets when he sees it.
Him amazing. Screaming lightning wielder was so gratifying.
It's so good.
However, can we agree that this scene makes Liam seem pretty fucking useless?
Why?
Jack was able to sneak up on him, jump dragon to dragon, stab him, and leave unscathed. Liam's supposed to be the Billy Badass of the first years.
I don't think anyone knew that someone would jump dragon to dragon in that moment.
But once he got there, we're not... Okay. All right. I'm just going to take my one little hit because I know this is going to be upsetting. I love Liam as character. He's my favorite human so far on this story, right? Other than Terran and the dragons, Liam's it for me. But somebody jumps from their dragon to your dragon, gets to where you're on your dragon. You also have weapons of some sort. And then you're stabbed. He boots your ass off of your dragon. And then he has time to get back on his own dragon and then fly to safety. And Liam has not injured him. There's nothing. Liam didn't see him coming from a mile away. That's his whole gift. Like, I'm just saying, there's so many things where I'm like, come on, Liam, be useful. At this point, Liam was a tool in this scene to show how awesome Violet is. But we could have used somebody else for it instead of Liam. That's what I wish.
I don't know. I bet we're going to get a scene like this with Rhiannon in the future.
What if it was Heaton and they, instead of stabbing him, he put like a fishbowl over their head with water that was unclean, like it was polluted water. They're like, I can breathe underwater, joke's on you, ha ha ha. And then Jack's like, that water's polluted, ha ha ha. And then Heaton's falling to his death. Violet, same story, saves him. But it makes sense that Heaton could have done nothing about it because they're in the air where water is scarce, unless it's raining.
You were ridiculous. I was wanting to talk about how badass Violet was.
We can move into that.
Of lightning wielding.
We're getting into that. We are going to get into that. Because
Instead, you're going on to a story about Heaton and their breathing underwater power that I still don't know how it's going to become
fucking useless.
At this time, I don't know when they...
Onyx storm. The storm happens underwater. Their adventure occurs in Atlantis. Finally, Heaton's time to shine.
I don't know where they're at. They're just not even there.
Heaton's just a pervert in the community tub, staying under too long, looking at everybody naked. Okay, moving on. Violet throws lightning.
Yeah.
Doesn't strike Jack, but strikes the rock outcrop or whatever.
And then he falls.
To his death.
And she's, makes the comment, there's no way he survived that. And she feels guilt and shame. Do you remember...
This whole thing would have been cleared up if she had been the boot retriever we talked about at the beginning.
I need these boots.
She's like, I bet his boots are fine. Let's go get him. Where did he go? That would have been so much fun.
Do you think that he did not die from this fall because he is venom, and similar to the wyvern, there were still wyvern alive after they supposedly were killed? But because of the rune inside of them, do you think it's something like that where he is a venom?
He's still alive because of plot contrivance. I think what I find difficult with his survival is I don't know that it was aided by him being venom. Because these people who become venom do not seem to be more indestructible than other people. They seem more powerful. But other than that, like, they're still using daggers and shit to fight with, which means they're not invulnerable outside of lightning. And if they were that invulnerable, the Dragon Riders would have been taken over long ago. There would be no more Pormelian citizens who have been fighting off the venom.
Pormelian?
Pormelian. Yeah. You don't think so? They change color sometimes. They're Pormelian.
Is what they're called. Okay.
People of Pormeal, whatever you want to call them. But I think Pormelian would make sense. And it gives the impression that the eyes are just on the side of their head working independently. They see it all. But
you think that he survived that fall long enough to get to...
For Nolan to get to him.
Yeah, because of plot armor, not because he's venom.
Yeah, and also we can agree Jack is a badass.
Yeah.
It sucks, but he is. And in where he has his minor redemption arc, for no real reason that I can see in the second book, right? We also see what a badass he is there. Jack he would have been a good ally, which I think is what makes him a compelling enemy.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, that's disappointing if it is because of...
You're right, it's because of runes.
Because of runes.
It's because of runes.
When she's getting ready to use her power, this is when I started kind of thinking about is how she's visualizing this overwhelming feeling that's consuming her, is that it is similar to lightning. And she makes this statement, I am the sky and the power of every storm that has been. I am infinite. It's like she's feeling all of this power, and this is how she is defining it.
And it is the most beautifully spoken thing Violet ever says out loud. I love this. The I am infinite moment is so powerful verbiage-wise. I'm like, holy shit, that's so badass. What's she going to say next? Don't worry about it. She doesn't get another moment like this.
No, it just switches to Taryn just being swelled.
And he just says, like, he's super stoked. And he should be. But it was like, the I am infinite thing, they could have been like, wow, her eyes just turned white like Storm and X-Men, right? Is what you envision. The song is Adele, right?
Which Adele?
She sets fire to the rain, right? In this like overpowering moment, that's the song you hear in your head.
Yeah.
And it is so cool. I want to say more, but I will just talk for 20 minutes and say nothing.
It was an amazing scene. Loved it then, loved it now. It's a great, love Taryn even more. Don't know how it's possible. I love Taryn.
I maintain my love for Taryn.
Chapter 29, Taryn covers her while she is getting sick from all of the guilt. And it's just really sweet and protective. I don't know. Again, I just loved him.
Yeah, Taryn's amazing.
But have other members of their squad or their wing killed?
Yeah, they have. Remember the group of people who have now been murdered. Those people were other squad mate killers. And the guy who she killed lots of people.
I know that Jack did, but has Rhiannon killed anyone?
No.
Has Sawyer?
We don't know
Riddick?
what he does in his off time. Riddick? No, Riddick does not have the sensibilities of a killer.
Yeah, I don't think anyone close to her has killed anyone other than Xaden in some way, and that is more implied. I don't
know. He killed the whole room of people that were trying to murder her.
Oh,
Xaden very publicly executed lots of people.
Yeah. Okay, so besides Xaden, I don't think any of her friends have killed anyone, and she's making it seem like she is this, now I'm like the rest of them. I'm like, well...
Actually, you're worse. The rest of them are still wholesome. Like, I would say the thing that got me more was Dain trying to comfort her came from a place of love and ignorance, right? Xaden trying to comfort her came from a place of knowledge, but not empathy, which it's not that he was wrong in what he said, but I think you can be correct at a later date.
In that moment, I agree with you. Later, he gets another moment of comforting her.
Takes another stab at it.
And I like that, where he is validating everything that she's feeling. He's like, you literally feel whatever you want and it is right.
Yeah, and I love that. His initial thing of like, you murdered him. You did it. It doesn't get easier. You own it. Run with it. I'm like, okay, so that is all correct. In this exact moment, is that what she needs?
No.
Probably not. But it worked for her, and it worked for him, and everybody's still horny for each other afterward. More power to him.
And Dain seems scared of her signet. Not scared of it for him, scared for her with a signet like that.
She just became, like, the most prolific weapon.
Yeah.
Dain is correct in this. Dain's a shit who happens to be correct. I hate how much I can see where Dain's coming from, because it isn't a behavior that I would have. But I think it's one that you can empathize with if you're looking to. She is now the most powerful rider, period.
If everyone acted in the correct way in every single scene, it would be a really boring book, though.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting they should have changed the way Xaden did things in this.
Yeah, or Dain, even.
No, and I would say Dain overall reacted exactly how a person would in this scenario.
How would Mira react?
She just found out her sister can throw lightning at people. She's going to have a moment where she's like, shit, she's suffering because she just killed somebody. And they all know the difficulty of managing to take control of their signets. It would be super concerning. There's no way you would look at this and go, oh my God, she's going to accidentally kill so many more people. This is going to be really hard on her. You know what I mean?
I didn't see what she did was an accident. By all means, she missed where she was aiming.
But this is kind of what I'm saying is, even if you had saw it as intentional, being a person who's also had to develop the understanding of your signet to gain control of it, you can see where this one would be a very scary one to have to get control over. It's handing a toddler a bazooka. Like, sure, they got lucky once and shot kind of in the right direction, but you now know that while they're sleeping, they have to hold on to this bazooka. Like, it would be concerning to me.
Yeah, and Professor Carr thinks she can do that in her sleep, too.
He's horny for her power. And her power is horny for Xaden. It is. Everybody's so horny.
Back to this, Violet thinks that she's a weapon.
She is.
I think she's a protector.
In the great words of your favorite actor, Hugh Jackman, in the X-Men series, the best defense is
The best offense.
a good offense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, later she obviously finds out that it's okay to be this weapon and that it can be used for protecting. And Xaden kind of brings this up. Rhiannon is talking to her about how the hell did you move like that? And this is, I think, one of the first lies that Violet says to her, or blatant lies.
Yeah.
It's
Versus
not-
saying, don't worry about it.
And it's obviously totally fine that she's lying, but I see the groundwork of her and Rhiannon having issues.
Yeah. No, I agree. I see this as an issue, right, where she lies to Rhiannon. And I think you could have obfuscated that by just saying, I can't tell you. It's that easy.
I think how she did it was fine. Tara's just really fast.
But she doesn't believe it. I think that's what makes it. It's not that you can't tell lies, but if you're going to tell a lie that this person's not going to believe, it didn't do you any good to lie. You know what I'm saying? You didn't create more trust by knowingly telling them something untrue. If they're going to distrust you anyway, you might as well be honest and just say, I can't tell you. That's where I'm at with it.
I think that's fair. Especially, it could all be assumed that it had nothing to do with Indarna. It's all Terran and you don't get to know about it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. As this chapter continues, it's mostly her feeling guilt over what happened. She's in her room. She feels so crappy about it. She doesn't need to wear her armor. She just needs to be in a thin cotton gown while throwing knives.
Yeah. Just nips out.
Nips out.
Or no, she doesn't have nipples yet. She gets those later. For now, she has peaks of breast. No?
Yeah.
But would you like to debate this? I believe I'm aware of the science. I've gone through the text.
Xaden knocks on the door, and she's ambivalent to whoever is at the door. Happens to be Xaden. She still doesn't care. Like, she kind of cares, but not to the same degree as she normally would. I thought her room was warded and that he couldn't walk through it without her holding his hand.
No. She doesn't have to hold people's hand. She has to allow them in. It's vampire rules. She gives them a guest pass.
Okay. All right. They haven't talked about it yet and how the room thing works.
They kind of don't. Actually.
Not yet. They do later when somebody gets launched out of there.
Wow, I don't remember that part at all.
Yeah, and he kind of laughed and chuckled and said, well, you got to hold their hand.
But other people have been in that room other than just her and Xaden.
I don't know. Xaden comes in, though.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. Anyways.
You enjoyed that moment.
Anyways, he walks in. He seems to have a moment of eye contact. No eye contact. Uh-oh. She is nearly nude in front of me right now.
He's enjoying the view, and she is, again, ambivalent toward his presence for the most part. What's really wild to me is that he didn't just, mind viber all of this. This could have been an email, is sort of what I got from it. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
So why he showed up there, he could have, in lieu of being physically present for it, just sent her a little mental email. Like, hey, this and this and this, and then let her have that space for a bit.
But we needed the sexual attention.
Didn't we just have that? If we're going to get more. I don't know, man. You're right.
Well, Xaden enters. She is in a thin gown and a swift breeze comes in. This is literally mentioned in the book that a cool breeze enters. And I think that's where you mentioned the peaks of her breasts.
Well, yeah, because that's how it's always described. The peak of her breast.
Xaden, as she points out, is recently bathed. I'm like, okay, good. He has washed his ass, so...
Scrub them cheeks.
Xaden is bathed and in fresh leathers.
Sealing in that flavor.
Absolutely. And he's not leaving anytime soon. Like, he brings up, like, I should probably go. And she's like, no. He's like, I think I probably should. And she's like, no.
She's like, there's a chair. Have a seat. He's like, I'll just stand near the door. It's the opposite of the Irish goodbye.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to go. He's just like, just staring at her like, oh, keep eye contact.
Using shadows to maintain the breeze. Here's my question. Do you think shadows are warm or cold?
I don't know. If he has control of their temperature, it's definitely a cool, shadowy breeze going on in there.
I would say if he doesn't have the ability to manipulate the temperature of shadows, you presented that, now it's not ready for that. That would be a wild power. He could freeze people. He could burn people. He can do anything with these shadows. I think when I think of a shadow, I think of it as not being warm because there's nothing circulating, right? Point is, the shadows are cool, right? Shadows are shade. There isn't the radiant light of the sun absorbing into them and whatnot. These shadows are cool. They are the cool breeze. There was no cool breeze until he walked in. He brought it in. He's like, short nightgown.
Actually, the shadows just went over to the window and slightly opened it up a little bit.
They're wafting air. It's just shadow hands just wafting. He's got a little shadow fan in the corner, hidden among other shadows so she can't see it. Every time she starts to say something and he starts to look down, fan's getting a little lower, blowing up a little more. He's like, oh, I've bathed. I see you haven't.
He has this one line that he says, I can definitely see that you're not wearing any armor.
Yeah. Where, again, what a great icebreaker. This person is mentally destroyed and you're like, I can see your tits. This is a great.
We've already pointed out he's too good looking to be a great flirt. And this is him flirting. He's like, oh, I can definitely tell.
You're almost naked. She's like, yes, I am heartbroken. Mentally distraught. And he's like, like,
the shadows are moving faster outside the window.
Yeah, just the hands are just wafting just a little quicker. He's like, well, I should go. And she's like, no, it's fine. You can stay. He's like, okay, all right.
Well, him putting out feelers to see what she's feeling is, so are you imagining that thing over there is me? She's like, I was, but not anymore. He's like, all right, we're getting good. We're getting better. At this point, I can tell that he is obsessed with her. Like, he's craving her. It's like he's in denial of how much he's falling for her, but it also doesn't quite make sense to me how hard he's falling for her compared to her.
Oh, yeah. So she starts off thirstier.
One time you pointed out that you, with me, you called yourself an Adriophile. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that is Xaden with Violet right now. Every time that he's horny, it's just for her. Yeah. There are no other girls on his mind. It is all about Violet, and it is very attractive.
It is maintained, too, throughout the series.
Yes.
He is. In this sense, this is where I use the word obsessed very sparingly. But I would say, you're right. He is obsessed with her. I don't think it's in the sense of constant thought, but in the sense of when that thought occurs, it is specific to her.
Yeah, when he has sexual urges and desires, it is for her. Like, that is what will satiate his desire, is her.
I would agree.
He craves her. And in this moment, it is very clear.
And it would be a hard room to leave. If you're in that mood, like, it's like when you're getting ready for work. Sometimes I'm later leaving the house because you're later getting ready for work. And I just want to enjoy every moment before you're dressed and ready to go. Days where you work from home, it's hard for me to go to work at all. I'm like, this could last all day.
Well, I think she's going to be taking a shower later.
I noticed she didn't scrub her ass yesterday. She's not in fresh leathers today.
She's not freshly bathed.
But her hair is washed. I'll try again tomorrow.
We also talked about he doesn't like defenseless women. And at this point, it makes sense why he is so horny for her even more than before, because she is the ultimate form of never defenseless.
She's a powerful woman.
Incredibly.
And I get it. It's like, I don't like whiny women or women that are too, not, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't enjoy people that paint themselves to be a victim all the time. I like the capacity for bitchiness is attractive to me.
Do you think
you are not a weak woman?
No.
And it is you being such a strong, particular personality is so attractive to me.
Do you think that when she wielded lightning, Xaden's just over there getting a boner like, oh, fuck, that's hot?
Yeah, and then I think his second thought was actually concern.
Oh, how so?
What if it's sexually transmitted? What if he plugs into that outlet and she hits him with 50,000 volts? Just lights his cock up.
I half wondered if that was going to be part of it because when she orgasms, it is like all that lightning power. She gets like static shock all over her.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He's got shadows, but he ain't grounded. Okay?
No.
All I'm pointing out is if she has to take him down in the third book, there's a way. She honey traps him, honey pots him, whatever that's called. He's like, oh, Xaden, don't mind me. And she's just out there in her nightie. Just, oh, sure hope no big, strong shadow wielder wants to come fuck. And then he's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Was that Violet? And she's like, oh, flipping her silver hair or whatever, right?
That he loves.
And I get it. Like, I adore so many of your features.
The way
where he
brings up her hair is as if he's been thinking about this before. And he just is now saying it out loud.
He wants to see it wrapped up in his hand.
100%.
He knows what's up. But then she just, bam, just, Vad shocks him. Or whatever. Maybe it's an oral thing. Who knows? But she lights his ass up with lightning straight through the old cockdoit. You get it?
Did she end up...
That was a conduit pun for those of you paying attention.
She didn't strike him or them with lightning. Just kind of like the room and the window.
Yeah.
Or something lit on fire.
It was the shade, the curtain.
We're not quite to that point because...
No, they haven't started fucking yet.
Chapter 29 is the tension of the room. She's in this sheer gown. Her nips are poking through.
She doesn't have nips.
Right, there's no nipples at this time.
Correct. Censored.
He steps over into her space so close, she can feel the heat from his body. And again, I'm just assuming that these are her nips that are just so close to his chest. And he just lined himself perfectly to be right in front of her.
How, actual temperature hot is he also? Because when we lay down in bed, I run incredibly cold. I, for instance, am cold right now. And I'm wearing a sweater inside our house, right? I'm very cold. My body temperature is probably 50 degrees on the outside. You are the opposite. You're my tiny little furnace, right? So when I get up, get the kids ready, and then I come back into bed to hang out, your furnace warmth, I get as close as I can to you so that I can feel your heat, but so that I don't touch you with my coldness, because that will wake you up and frustrate you. So
I'm assuming that's how close he is to her.
Yeah, but that means their temperature differential is like mine. Why is she just in a nightie? Hanging out. She must not be freezing. Or she is, and she is. Just in case somebody pops in here, check the old temperature. Boop. He's so close I can feel his heat. He's wearing leather. He's holding a lot of that heat in. He's got to be like 200 degrees. This man he's a real smoke show.
That's how chapter 29 ends. Chapter 30, there is a tiny little intro to it. Not speaking of Xaden on that.
There's an itsy bitsy intro, but it's Xaden. He's just
Xaden.
I imagine Xaden must have like an 18-inch cock. The way it's
huge.
Described. Yeah. This is no mere 9
His member. He has a member.
Yeah. And it's not a mere 9-inch penis. It's like whatever it is wild. But also, she's only seen 2 other penises. That's pretty rad for him. If he isn't actually packing the craziest heat in the world, and she's just had a couple less than great. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm from the guy's perspective.
I guess I wasn't thinking too much of his size. I just know that he is very large.
Brought up a lot.
Impressive. But I do like that it's worded as member. It's kind of silly.
No, it's also worded as cock.
Oh, they do just come out and say cock.
At some point.
Oh, okay. Well,
maybe not. Maybe I did. Maybe I was reading and I was like, his cock. And then just kept going. The impressive length of him.
Yeah.
He's not short on girth either. This bad boy's just 4 Campbell's soup cans stacked on top of each other. She's like, but is he gonna fit? And he's like, it will. And he just shadow forceps. I don't know how he does it.
Something we never got in either of these books, you brought this up one time, is the logistics of what would happen with his shadow power. The fact that
he's using them.
There's no way he's not using this power.
You're using those powers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's using them to put out fires, but this is the other thing where he's like, I've lost control. You didn't lose control. You did not lose control. You had enough control left to be like, we better put that out while we're doing this and keep fucking. Like, this dude is more mentally aware of what's going on in the room than a regular dude is during this process. We could be robbed while we're having sex, and I would have no real idea. Once in a while, there'll be like a noise that if I pick up on that noise outside of it, it's a different game from then on out, right? Xaden is aware of fires starting.
The lightning happening.
This is what I'm saying. He is so aware, and he's like, I've never lost control like that. I'm like, how in control are you normally? Like, is he normally just doing math over there while they're fucking? What the fuck is happening? Your brain is so much more active.
Well, now that we know about Cat, is that who he's referencing?
For whom?
Xaden.
Where he's like, I've never lost control. And it was because Cat kept him in check. She was like, no. You have dignitary shit to be doing. This is for me.
Worship me.
Honestly, whatever she taught him was great. Because he's doing a great job, and we only hear of him having her and Violet.
Yeah.
There
Speaking of the worshiping, though, that is where I think that when he sees her power and he is just so turned on by her, he just wants to worship her and everything about her.
But the way they fuck is not sensual in this scene. Their first time fucking, for people who are relatively inexperienced, it comes off like people who saw a porno and then were like, watch these moves. Instead of it being changing positions is something you work your way into, right?
I think that kind of falls into why she views him as a bit of a fuck buddy, where she doesn't...
It wasn't sensual, it was fucking.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because she kind of puts him in that category of, well, we're not in a relationship. We're just complicated.
You're just an orgasm machine.
Yeah.
Because he's using the shadow to rub the clit as things are happening.
They don't say that, do they?
No, but it's implied.
It should be happening.
And while they're doing it, he doesn't give her a little refractory period between first to second orgasm either, which sometimes works. Sometimes it works great. But if you're there for just maximum enjoyment, you're better off trying to delay those orgasms out, drag that process out. So when they have them, it's just a cascade and a waterfall.
And I think that kind of happens later, where he does it more slowly and they are in more of a relationship.
The throne scene, too,
Yeah.
is more of when you get this, oh, he knows what he's up to. Here, it's more like he has some natural gifts and has been pointed in the right direction by somebody. So he's just showing off moves that he knows. It comes off more like a showcase than an enjoyment of her body. Does that make sense? It's more of an enjoyment of the action.
Yeah, and I think it plays into where their relationship is at right now.
And it's really well done. I listened to this scene so many times.
Yeah.
It is far more than I wanted to. 3.5, I would even say, because I went back to certain parts of this because I was like, what's going on? So she gets 3 orgasms, right?
Oh, okay. You were even counting. I didn't know this.
Yeah, and it's brought up. She counts them for us a couple times. So she gets the first one, and the first into the second. It's just a continuous, really, I think she doesn't know how to count them. She's like, the pleasure ebbs and flows. So there's times where it isn't insane to her, right? She's able to return back to her regular mental state, and then the orgasms is where she's lighting things on fire. But the first into the second, it was just a long, drawn-out one with a bit of an ebb in the middle of it. And then the next one, there is a bit of space betwixt these, which I think plays into the final one being amazing, and that one happens simultaneously with him. I like that he discusses consent with her, and then they discuss contraception. I love that it's there. For young people reading this book, do that. Get direct consent beforehand, especially if you're not in a well-formed relationship.
Yeah.
That's well understood in the boundaries of. And then understanding everybody's plans for contraception is so important.
I guess my critique on it was I liked how in the last series, it was just brought up in the beginning that you just take this drink or something like that. And then we just,
brew.
Yeah, and then we just don't think about it. Instead, this is something that we're doing right before getting started. And it just kind of seemed thrown in there because I don't think it's ever brought up again.
Well, she brings it up kind of throughout this a little bit because the idea of we're both obviously on this, but I bring it up to him anyway and let him know that I am. And it's like, okay, I don't think it's a requirement that both of you are. I like that both of you have decided to play this safe. There's absolutely no mitigation of STDs in this, though. Why they cannot just use some form of condom? Every goddamn fantasy book acts like this is a westernized thing. Condoms exist in other places. They've existed for centuries, right? This isn't some invention. I mean, latex condoms probably, but prior to that, there were other things, sheep innards, whatever. You use all kinds of cool things back in the day to prevent people from getting knocked up and maybe prevent the spread of too much fun.
I guess my take was just more, it's a magical world, and I thought that it would be like the last series where we just kind of talk about, oh, this is already taken care of. Now we don't need to talk about it again.
It would have been cool if it was actually brought up when she was talking about how much everybody sleeps around.
Yeah, that would have been a much
good moment
yes.
to be like, actually, they put it in our food here because they don't want any crotch goblins running around Besgaiath.
That would have been a better time. And that's all that I was getting at is I wish that it wasn't in this scene because it was like
took you out of it a little.
It takes you out of it, and it was still just as it could have been put
elsewhere.
I
do not disagree with you. 100% I agree.
When chapter 30 started, Xaden is going into, you don't want this. And she's like, but I do. You said I could have whatever I want, and I want you. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll oblige.
Yeah, you don't want any of this. You pointed out a Dewey Cox meme.
Yeah.
It is exactly what I thought of.
In the movie Walk Hard.
Yeah. And it would be like if I was like, why? Do you want to kill me? And he's like, no, I want to keep you alive more than anyone else.
Yes.
He's like, oh, are you a selfish lover? No, I don't even know that I have a penis. It's like, oh, well, I kind of want it. Yeah.
Why is the sex really bad? No, it'll be the best sex you've ever had.
You will throw lightning out of your clit.
I think I kind of want it.
Yeah, that's exactly what this came off as. Xaden is trying to make sure that whatever decisions she's making are actually in her best interest, which I found charming.
It is, but because she doesn't know the whole truth, it is what she truly wants in that moment, but he is withholding information from her that would affect her decision making.
Okay, in fairness, little note to everybody that's ever had sex. The first time you had sex with somebody, that was true. If everybody was 100% honest with every aspect of their life leading up to before you had ever even had sex with them, would you have had sex with anybody?
No. No, definitely not with my first.
Well, sure, or any of us. Like, to be fair, I think as a dude, it's maybe a little different because it's seen as more of just a physical interaction, but especially for a young woman, it's often depicted more as an emotional experience. I'm not a young woman, so I don't know. I'm hoping that the reality is, yeah, that is exactly what Violet wanted in that moment. And the fact that he is duplicitous a bit in his keeping her alive initially and his rationale for things really doesn't affect that a whole lot. Like, she does want it. She doesn't even like him when she first wants it. She's wanted it since the day she saw him. She stepped off a parapet.
She's like, I want to use you as my toy and dildo. And he's like, yes, please. Wait, no, I don't know. And she's like, yes.
Yeah, really what she wanted was, I think, a distraction.
She did.
More than anything.
Yeah.
And I think there's nobody that's shown to be more capable of being a distraction, whether that be sexual or even just, there's a bit of hate-fucky vibes to this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's more on her end than on his. He comes off more like, haha, look at this cool move I know, haha. He's like a kid that wants you to watch him when they're first learning to, like, roller skate or ride a bike, where every little thing they do, they're like, oh, check out this cool trick I learned. They pop the front wheel of their bike up like a half inch. You're like, whoa.
This is Xaden with the shadows. Like, look what I can do.
Xaden with his wiener. He's just like windmilling. He's like, I'm about to do so many cool things. Ha ha. Just helicoptering his way into her heart.
The first time when we listened to this, I thought he was resistant because he was just a gentleman, when really it's all the secrets that he's keeping from her and that she is clueless.
How gentlemanly of him to think of that, though. Really. For him to be considering that in the moment. I'm still giving it to Xaden being a gentleman here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nicer about Xaden. Look at me go.
You're so good. He mentions, I always want you. When did all of this really switch for him? When he's like, I've always wanted you.
I think all of the things you were pointing out from chapters 2 through 29 are true. I think I didn't allow you to continue believing in all of those moments. I think it's dumb that he's always wanted her, to be fair. Like, he didn't know her at all. She's just some frail girl, and he's like, I don't like fragile women. And
no, he Doesn't
And like
care.
helpless women.
Helpless
Women. But let's be honest, there were a lot of moments where Violet was pretty helpless in the beginning of this book. So to be like, I always wanted you, his own rules don't apply.
I disagree.
She was helpless in the tree if he wouldn't have helped keep her hidden. If he wouldn't have sent everybody away and they would have just waited until she finally gave out and fell out of the tree, everybody else wanted to murder her. She would have been helpless. She was being murdered and he stopped it. She was helpless against them.
I guess I took it as when she was feeling helpless, she found ways to help herself.
Also with other people. Other people have also helped her. I'm not suggesting that she is a helpless woman by definition. I'm saying there were lots of moments where you would characterize her as being kind of helpless. She keeps falling out of a saddle, but Taryn keeps like clawing her back in there. She's helpless at riding a dragon without Taryn's help initially. She's helpless at fighting until she poisons people. He's like, but I've always wanted you. Well, he's not attracted to helpless women because she's not helpless anymore. It's really what it is.
No, defenseless women, to be very exact.
And
now she's the ultimate defense.
By being the ultimate offense.
I like how you're saying, I'm not going to be hard on Xaden right now, and instead you're like, my target is now Violet.
Well, everybody needs their chance to get picked on. No, I'm not picking on either one of them. I don't think it's bad that Violet was the person she was. Her being physically incapable and weak, and even the areas where she is imperfect as just a human being, I don't see that as a negative thing. I think that is what makes me like Violet more than Xaden for most of the book. Because Xaden is seen to be this impossibly perfect human, and Violet is shown to have overcome things. Violet having things to overcome is amazing. And the fact that she's able to rely on other people to help facilitate that is why I like this more than I liked the other book series. Because the other person is written out to be, she gets through things as an illiterate dummy most of the time.
She even points out how she does not want to be included in war. There were like 2 wars where she just stood on the sidelines watching it happen.
Yeah, ultimately, I enjoy her as a character as well now, but she's a much more difficult character to love.
I like Violet way more.
I prefer Violet to, all of a sudden I forgot her name.
Feyre.
Holy shit, we were 4 books into that one and I couldn't remember. But I like Rhysand better than Xaden. Other than Rhysand being an old pervert. That's the only real major hang up I got for Rhys.
His eyes darken.
Again.
And he loves her hair.
Yeah.
This is that moment that
his eyes darken. Please describe
I don't know what it is.
No, just describe it. Come on, give me a little bit. Are the golden flecks disappearing?
I'm assuming that his pupils get wider.
As it's dark?
I don't know.
That would make some sense. I would get that. No, I could see that. Like, maybe, holy shit, I think you cracked the code. His shadows start to block out more of a light. His pupils dilate because they're trying to absorb more light and he can't see as well. His eyes are darkening. So are hers, but she can't see her eyes. She doesn't say our eyes are darkening. You know, she doesn't have a mirror. All right, I'll run.
Our eyes darken. You have the note, "So kiss me," leaving on a jet plane by John Denver.
Kiss me. Yeah. Is Mr. Sunshine up my ass? Goddamn John Denver. There were so many moments. You brought up something the other day where I've kind of stopped my song references. And some of that was because I felt like it was not a grown-up way to enjoy the book. And as a human being, you make enough of these references out loud. Sometimes they're charming, and sometimes people just want to enjoy what they're doing and not have a song stuck in their head about it. This is one of those moments where I could not help it. I tried to keep it in, and then I'm like, no, don't. Adri said don't. Just say it.
There's someone that I'm following on Fable that constantly makes references like this, and it's so great. As they're reading Iron Flame, they're putting out song references.
That's really perfect. We should be doing that as well.
I didn't want to take their moment. I was just liking and enjoying theirs.
You're 100% right. You know what? That's a good point. I would be curious. I'll look on there too and see kind of what I think of their stuff, because maybe they're getting different songs. I would find that so enriching, honestly.
I'll see if I can find their stuff.
I have like the same 8,000 songs that come up for a lot of things.
Oh, and after she says, "So kiss me," the fertility suppressant is brought up. I put an X in because now the sex is officially happening in the scene. That goes on. And there's sunny skies and lightning.
Why are there sunny skies? This is my other favorite part.
I don't.
It's midday sex, which is cool. If you're the first time you're banging one out is midday. that is all hormones. And I like that it wasn't liquor-induced.
Yeah.
Her curtains have caught fire. Her bedroom is destroyed. The furniture is
Well,
all disheveled.
so for this first one, the first time that she and him do this, I can understand that a student would assume she's learning her power and that it's not sex-related.
Mm-hmm. So they're having this crazy, awesome sex. Things are breaking. They're just animals, right? How private is her room?
I don't know. I thought it was pretty private.
Like, I don't know, a few buildings over from other places? Or you think this is kind of like fucking in an apartment?
Like an apartment.
Cool.
Yeah, they definitely hear.
So nobody hears what's happening here. The animal noises, the shadows leaking out of the room and then putting out fires, and nobody gets any inclination as to what's happening here. I don't know, man.
Well, and he gets like this animalistic rage of the idea of people spreading rumors about her. It's funny.
Animorphs. It's a cute scene, and I think it's amazing. Everybody knows they're having
It's
sex.
cute. It's necessary that he's acting that way, thinking about people spreading rumors, but I can think it's funny.
Again, yeah, I've went through this scene several times. Never once has it made me horny thinking about it. Although, I would say Violet's appreciation for Xaden in this too is probably the most fantasy part of this book so far. She is giving him all the credit. Even post-sex, like, her appreciation for it afterward had to make him feel just like a king.
I think it seems like Violet and Xaden that made me not really enjoy Rhys and Feyre's scenes to the same degree, because Violet is obviously into Xaden, but yet what she is receiving, she is enjoying so much of what he's doing to her that when we went and listened to the Akatar series, it was all about how attractive Rhys is. It was not about how amazing he is in bed. It was just he's large, he's so sexy and all these things. But as far as what she was experiencing, that is where it sounds like Xaden is way better in bed than Rhys.
Well, I would argue the other advantage in this, and maybe this is more just on my end, it's also focused on what Violet is doing in this, and not just focused on what's being done to Violet.
Yeah.
There is appreciation for Xaden in this heavily, but there is also a mutual appreciation. He isn't fucking her. They are having sex.
Yeah.
And it is a vast difference between that and Akatar he has sex to her.
Yeah. But I just feel like this sex scene is just written so much better than that other series and all of the scenes because it feels like more of a female experience.
It feels like more of an actual sexual experience.
Yeah.
It would be like how I'd imagine like VR sex would be.
In the last series?
Yeah. Akatar would be more like VR sex, where it was a very visual thing for the most part. And then it was very focused on just what the person is doing from this perspective.
Yes.
And this one is more like, he's doing this, I'm doing this, we're doing this.
But we feel this, or I'm feeling this.
No, but it's a we, because she brings up how Xaden is being affected by it as well.
Yeah.
That's where, again, it is a joint experience. It isn't a singular perspective.
And then we hear more about it later when she is with Professor Carr and he's sending her all these images from his perspective. And it's more about what he is feeling and craving and desiring from her.
Yeah, it's snapshots of his condition in that moment.
Yeah. After they get done, she notices his scars. There's 107. She's like, somebody did this. He kind of opens up about it, but not completely. And he says, whatever you do, don't fall for me, but I am consumed by you.
This is such a dumb moment. This is the moment. Okay, now I'm going to pick on Xaden again. Whatever you do, don't fall for me. What an incredibly contrived plot device.
It has to happen.
Something so original.
It has to happen.
He's doing nothing to prevent it either. He is not distancing himself in a way that would make that easier for her. He is literally using himself as a means of motivation to get her to do things. He's doing everything the opposite of what it is he says in that moment. That moment is there as this like foreshadowy type of, oh, don't fall for me, I'm a bad guy. But also, let me cuddle you and keep you warm and give you these little emotional biscuits to keep you around, and then give you the physical biscuits to keep you around. He's just, it's such a, to me, that part could have been cut and it would have been perfectly fine. It did not need to be there. It was fluff and nothing more.
I guess I took it as necessary cheesiness. I don't know.
We didn't get enough of that.
I just saw it as part of his character to say something like that.
Okay. All right. You're probably more right on that than I am. I just looked at it like, oh, he just doesn't do any part of what he's saying here. He says one thing, does everything to ensure the opposite.
It's almost like he knows she shouldn't fall for him because of the secrets that he knows that will upset her, but yet he wishes those things aren't true.
Secrets that you keep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is aware of all of that. I just think it's funny that he goes through the work of being like, don't fall for me. It's kind of like the do you want this moment and then them listing out the reasons why she wants it.
Yeah.
He just keeps giving her reasons to fall for him. And he's like, but don't do it. Don't fall for me. But I'm going to be amazing to you. I'm never going to leave you alone. And I'm going to constantly give you all the validation you ask for or need. But don't love me.
I'm going to treat you like a queen that you are.
Well, and even like just proximity, right? He's always right where she needs him. There's just so many things where I'm like, okay. Moral of the story, that part was just not for me. I'm like, that didn't add anything to anything for me.
I think that's fair. It ends with that, don't fall for me. Professor Carr shows up.
The next morning.
Yes.
We need to point that out. Professor Carr doesn't show up immediately after they're done banging, and he's like, well, the lightning stopped, so I thought I'd jaunt over here. Professor Carr shows up, and he's like, you ready for training? She's like, I don't need another. Well, before she knows it's Professor Carr. She's like, I don't need another bodyguard. And she opens the door, still mostly naked, I assume, destroyed room. And then Professor Carr's like, excuse me, miss, cover the points of your tits and let's go train. And he's like, wow, your room looks disheveled. I wonder what happened.
You should probably get this under control. I've done some research. You're not going to need a coat.
Yeah.
Well, it begins with his ugliness and how he treats her.
Ooh, did you think he treated her poorly in this?
Not yet. I think it's kind of the start of him just kind of, let's call it for what it is. You don't like me. You need this. I don't know.
You don't trust me.
Yeah.
And she is very open about it. She's like, how the fuck would I trust you? I watched you break some kid's neck a few weeks ago. And he's like, had to happen. But don't worry. You don't actually need to trust me for this. This is actually where I think earlier I was like, Carr's a cock through the whole thing, right? He's kind of not. In this particular scenario, I think Carr's reasonable.
What is his signet at? Do you remember?
Torture. He knows what pains people.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Professor Carr is that. Oh, and this is when Taryn brings up, shall I fetch the wing leader?
Yes, Taryn also says, I'll fucking cook this dude if I need to.
Yeah.
Like, I think those, I prefer, like, shall I fetch the wing leader was a fun, lighthearted moment. The moment where she's like, don't fucking leave me here with this guy. And he's like,
Never.
I never would leave you. And also, if he fucking steps out of line, I'll murder him and his goddamn dragon. Like, I think that was a cool moment. It's the fatherly side of him.
Yeah, he's very protective. And Xaden sends her his cravings, and she wields more lightning. And that is the end of the chapter.
Yeah, which is cool. I like that, obviously, she has to find a different method of creating lightning. But they bring up that there hasn't been a lightning wielder in like 100 years, right? They seem to have a lot of very particular records on every signet.
I think they do, yeah.
It's interesting given the way that the information is so controlled, the amount of information they're given. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm assuming Professor Carr is documenting things right now based off of Violet's experiences and what she's sharing.
So his signet is more or less motivation, right? Is what we kind of get out of this, like with the pain and stuff. Like he knows what's going to hurt and blah, blah, blah. Do you think he's aware of how attached she is to Xaden right now? Or do you think it's only physical pain really that he can pick up on?
I can't remember. I do know that Xaden has been very good at shielding since the beginning, or since he's been around Carr. So Carr did not know about Xaden's to Violet, but I don't think he knows about Xaden to her. But I also think that we see a lot of signs where Xaden is more attached to Violet than Violet is to Xaden.
Yes and no. I think we see where Xaden, by choice, is near Violet more. I think Violet needs Xaden more than Xaden needs Violet.
I disagree. When Xaden is very attached to Violet, as he's becoming right now, it is only for Violet, only protect Violet, Violet, all about her. As Violet, the other way, is yes, Xaden, but also Indarna, also Mira, also everyone in her squad, all of these people that she cares about. As for Xaden, it is only her.
I'm not disagreeing as far as the factor of want or desire. I mean, as far as actual necessity is.
I think given where he gets to what he sacrificed at the end of the book, it is because he needs her.
In this moment, if Violet didn't ever exist here, Xaden would still be thriving. If Xaden had never existed in this book series, Violet would not be thriving.
Yeah, but when it comes to Professor Carr and people's vulnerabilities, I don't think Xaden is Violet's vulnerability to the degree that Violet is Xaden's vulnerability.
You're probably right. I don't think we're really given that much into this. I think Violet doesn't take a moment really to observe her feelings as honestly as Xaden has so far.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is Violet has been lightly obsessing over Xaden for a long time. Xaden has been sneakily obsessing over Violet for far less time, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But his is more intense.
Currently, his attachment is far more intense than Violet's attachment is.
Yeah.
But then again, Violet is motivated to leave her sister there for dead because Xaden kisses her. Like, I do think that Violet is trying to play it cool, but Violet is not emotionally intelligent with her own emotions. I think from Violet's perspective, what you're saying is 100% accurate. I think from Violet's actions, that's not the case.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I'm following. Did you have any other notes?
No, none. Do you think they call him Carr because he drives him crazy?
You are ridiculous.
Okay. All right, I'm done. That was it. One more little quip.
I love you.
I love you.
You are my best friend.
You're my best friend.
Besties.
Besties.
It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.